Hey folks, I'm Nate, a technical marketing manager for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And if you're running Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 on Amazon Web Services without support, you're going to want to watch this video. What do you mean without support? That's what you're saying, right? Well, here's what I mean. So Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 at the end of June in 2024 went end of maintenance. Now, what that means is Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 continues to run, but you're not getting any more updates from it. However, we do offer a solution for that, which is called Extended Lifecycle Support, or ELS. What ELS does is for an additional 2 or 4 years, depending on how you want to pay for it, will give you critical and important bug fix and security advisories backported to RHEL 7. So if you've got a workload that's running on RHEL 7 that you just can't migrate to RHEL 8 yet, or wherever you want to move it, this will help keep you covered and keep you within compliance. Now, there's been ways to buy ELS for several versions of RHEL at this point. I don't know when they started, but I know they existed for RHEL 6 and RHEL 5 and maybe even 4. But with RHEL 7, we realized that there's a lot more cloud customers than there used to be. And you may not be interested in buying a yearly subscription for extended lifecycle support. You might want an hourly billed extended lifecycle support subscription to add to your cloud instances, because that's how people run things in the cloud. So what we did is we came up with a way for anybody in the cloud to purchase extended lifecycle support through your cloud marketplace. And then there's a little bit of configuration that has to happen on your server to make it actually report that it's using ELS. And then we'll bill you right through your cloud provider, the same way you're used to getting billed for everything else. The intention of this video is to show you how to configure what's called the host metering service on an Amazon Web Services instance, EC2 instance, that's running Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, so that you can get all of that configured and get it reporting back to Red Hat so that we can then send those bills into you through your cloud provider. There's a couple things you're going to need. First, you're going to need some access and some permission. So, like I said, we need to be able to link your AWS account to your Red Hat account. Now, if you don't have a Red Hat account yet, don't worry. We're going to get to that in just a second. So you need access through AWS to be able to purchase things on the marketplace. Now, I realize that not everybody might have that permission. That's why I'm mentioning it now. If you don't have that level of permission in your AWS console, you're going to want to get it or get someone who does, because there's one marketplace listing you have to buy, and that's going to sort of link up the billing between Red Hat and Amazon. So first, however, I'm going to show you the RHEL 7 system that I have set up at the moment, just so you know there's kind of no smoke and mirrors going on here. So this is a RHEL 7.9 system. You can see 7.9. I just updated the machine. It's highly recommended that you have the system running 7.9 when you get started. However, not necessarily required. Just keep in mind that if you do run into issues and you try to ask for help, probably one of the first things that support's going to ask you is, have you updated to 7.9? One thing that absolutely does have to be updated to the latest release is a tool called Subscription Manager, and we're going to touch on that in a second. So here's my 7.9 system. If I do right now a yum check update, you're going to see there are no updates waiting for it. So it's going to go through and refresh its cache, and there you go. No updates waiting for it. No ELS repository either. You're going to see as we go through this process that we're going to add that repository, and that's where those new updates are going to come from. So, like I said, first thing we need to do is get that marketplace listing. So here we are on my EC2 dashboard. You can see my RHEL system right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a new tab here that has the AWS Marketplace already open in it. Okay, now you can see here, I searched the marketplace for the term Extended Lifecycle Support. And what that's going to get you is all of the things that include the words Extended Lifecycle Support. Now, in my case, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 Extended Lifecycle Support is right here at the top. If you don't see it at the top, you're going to want to, 1, look for this logo, Red Hat, and 2, look for where it says Buy Red Hat. That tells you that this is the offering from us. You do not want to accidentally end up buying extended lifecycle support from a third party. If you're having trouble finding Red Hat in your list, you can filter by publisher. And if you filter by Red Hat, and check this option right here that says Red Hat, click on Add Filters, you will now see only listings from us, right? Now, anything that includes the word Extended Lifecycle Support, of course. But this one right here, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 Extended Lifecycle Support. We're going to click on that. And once we do, it brings us to the actual listing. And you can read all the details. You can find the EULA, and you can find, the different things that you're agreeing to, the legal terms, and all of that. I've already read these. I work for Red Hat. I feel like I'm pretty safe here. You will probably want to read all of this data. So take a minute to go do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to click on the View Purchase Options button here. And what that takes me to is where I can actually subscribe to the listing. Now, you can see right here is that EULA, and right here is a subscribe button. Now, you're going to want to pay attention to the pricing and whatnot. I'll leave that up to you. Click subscribe, and it's going to actually go through the process of sort of enabling that subscription on my AWS account. Now, this takes a moment, so let's wait a moment. Okay, so you can see my screen changed here. It now shows a nice green box, very welcoming, very pleasant. We have to click on this button that says Set Up Your Account. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to take you over to the Red Hat Hybrid Cloud Console. And if you're not already logged in, or if you don't already have an account, don't worry. It's going to bring you to this login page. On the login page, at the bottom, there's a Register for Red Hat Account. If you have an account but you can't remember the login, you can click on this Forgot Your Password. I already know my login, so I'm going to log in. Okay, and then, put in my password and click Login. There we go. So, what just happened there that you may have missed is it connected us to the Hybrid Cloud Console. Of course, we put in our username and our password. If you already have a session there, it won't ask you for the login. It'll just do the next step, which is linking the account. That was that second page that we saw there. But it doesn't need any input from you to do that. It just does it. Okay? And then it brings you to this very helpful help documentation about how to enable what you just bought. Now, if you don't go through this, you're not done. Now, there's a couple ways to get this done. Two, in fact. Two per hyperscaler. Since we're talking about AWS, I'm going to talk about the two that affect AWS. One is you can use a setup called the cost integration or the hybrid cloud console integration. It's a lot more complicated. There's another video on that. We're not going to talk about that in this video. The second option is to use what's called the host metering service, and we're going to talk about that in this video. Now, you can see here it says step 1, enable hourly metering, and we're going to go to this link here that says how to enable hourly metering. And this is really the core of the rest of the setup that we're going to go through. You can see there's a bunch of options here. This talks about those two different ways that you could configure the cost management. You can either use that integration or you can use the host metering service. You can see if we were doing host metering, there's all these options up here at the top. If you scroll straight down past them, you're going to get down to here where it says how to meter when you've chosen the host metering service. Now, this particular setup is much simpler. Basically, you have to buy that offering, and then you have to set up a service on your RHEL servers. Now, I'm not going to go back and forth between the documentation here. I'm going to show you how this works on my RHEL system that I'm setting up. I will use these documents as reference, but I'm not going to go back and forth and show you what step I'm on at every step of the way. I will tell you kind of what section I'm looking at the moment, okay? And there's also some stuff in here that there is... We do need to improve some of this documentation. Some of the steps that are currently in the document are out of date. I'm going to show you the most current way to get this done. If you follow the steps verbatim in the documentation, it will still work. Just there's some things that it has you do that you don't necessarily have to do anymore. So let's hop back on over to my RHEL system. And you can see it's still sitting where we left it. Let's clear the screen so we have a nice clean slate to work with here. And the first thing we need to do is register our system with Red Hat. Now, the reason we have to do that first, you might say, well, isn't my system already registered? If it's a pure cloud instance that you've been paying solely through your cloud provider all this time, you don't actually have any relationship with Red Hat at the moment. You do now that you set up an account when you bought that listing on the marketplace. But before that, you were getting updates directly from AWS. We're going to change that in this particular setup because ELS only comes from Red Hat. It's not mirrored to your cloud provider like you're used to. So, first thing we need to do is use Subscription Manager to register our system. Okay, and this is a really simple workflow. It asks you for your username. Now, in your case, this will probably be your email address or whatever username you used when you logged into that hybrid cloud console earlier when we linked to the marketplace listing. In my case, it's tmm-nlager, and the password that should still be on my clipboard. And what it should do, there you go. It's telling me the system's been registered. It gives me the name it's registered as. This warning is simply that some plugins have been enabled inside of Yum in order to make Subscription Manager work properly on this system. Not something you really need to worry about. Okay, we're going to clear the screen again. And the next thing we need to do is make sure that the Subscription Manager application itself is fully up to date. Now, you might say, why did we subscribe first and then do that? It's because it doesn't really matter. You can do the subscription before you've updated the Subscription Manager binary, or after. Doesn't matter. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's going to tell me it's already up to date because my system was 100% up to date. But if your system is not 100% up to date, you need to make sure you do this step. Not Yum. Update Subscription-Manager. And this is going to go out and ask the repositories, is there a newer version of Subscription Manager available for my system? In my case, it's going to say no. It's going to bring me back to a prompt. In your case, it might update. And if it does, then that's good, because if you didn't update it, the rest of these steps might not have worked properly. Just give it a moment to finish. Okay, no packages marked for update. That's exactly what I expected to have happen. Now, the next thing we have to install is this host metering service. We're going to do yum install host-metering. It's that simple. What that package will do is it's going to install all the pieces of the host metering service in order to let us report back to that hybrid cloud console that this system is or is not using ELS. So we're going to tell this yes. And here we go. It's installing the host metering service. Okay. Now that that's installed, again, we're going to clear the screen so it's nice and tidy. Now, all we really need to do is turn on and start that service. We're going to do systemctl enable -- now tells it not only to enable it tells it to start it at boot, now tells it to start it now as well, right? And then we do host -metering. Okay, and it does not return anything. That's normal, right? But what we can do next is do systemctl status host-metering, and it should give us some nice green text that says that it's active and that it's running, right? Loaded, active, and it gives me a process within systemd here, so that's good. That means it's running. And there's some output here that tells me that it's an AWS instance and it's going through the AWS marketplace. Everything is good to go with this output. So that means that the host metering service should now be functional. Okay, and that is the core of what we have to do to get the reporting piece to work properly. The last step is actually turning on extended lifecycle support. There's two things we need to do to make that happen. The first thing is we need to, let me clear that screen again. We need to tell Subscription Manager that it will enable RHSM, the Red Hat Subscription Manager service, to manage repositories, right? By default, that's turned off on your AWS instance. We're going to turn it on. And then, now that Subscription Manager is allowed to configure repositories, we're going to tell it to configure a repository. And that repository is the RHEL-7-server-ELS-RPMs. Now, This is in that documentation. You notice I copy and pasted it. That's where I copied it from. Now that that's done, we should be able to try to do an update again. Yum, check update, should return that there are in fact now updates available after it refreshes all of its caches and everything. All right, there we are. We've got updates available. And you notice that the repository that it says that it comes from here is the RHEL 7 server ELS RPMs. Now, if I did a yum-y update, it's going to go out and get all those updates and install them. There you go. Now, I'm not going to sit here and wait for these to finish. You're just going to have to trust me. I mean, look, it's downloading updates as we speak. What I did want to show you was one more thing back on the Hybrid Cloud Console, and that is where you're going to be able to monitor these subscriptions and how many you're using. Okay, so here we are back at the Hybrid Cloud Console. Now, you may have missed it before, but the URL for this is console.redhat.com. The marketplace listing took you there automatically before, so I want to make sure you have that URL. So, console.redhat.com. This is where you're going to find things like Red Hat Insights, where you're going to find Red Hat Insights Image Builder, very useful tools. But at the moment, all I want to show you is the subscriptions and spend dashboard. So, under services here, up at the top, we're going to go down to subscriptions and spend. Click on that. And then underneath Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you'll click on subscriptions usage. And what this will do is it'll bring you to the default view, which is all of your RHEL for x86 subscription usage. Now, yours will look different than mine. You can see I've got 20,000 on here. That's because this is a employee account and I've got a bunch of subscriptions. Yours will reflect whatever your organization has, which might be nothing because all you're buying from us is ELS. But you can filter this based on variant at the top here. And what I mean by variant is basically the software that you are consuming from Red Hat. You can see there's a bunch of things in here. What you're looking for is RHEL for x86 ELS on demand. Okay, so you see there's also the annual. Annual is our traditional way of buying subscriptions where you're purchasing them once per year or maybe at periods throughout the year. On demand is this new hourly offering. So we click on the on demand and you're going to see usage in here for me. Now there's one caveat. Yes, there's usage here. Yes, this is what it's going to look like for you, but it won't show up immediately. You notice how this bar is flat for several hours. And then all of a sudden it jumps. Actually, this is several days, I guess, as I look at it. And then it jumps. This is where I set up some systems yesterday, just so I would have some data in this graph to show you today. This is not up to the second. This will report roughly daily. So if you come back after you've configured a system the way I just showed you, and you've installed updates from on that system so that the system actually says, yes, I'm using ELS now, within 24 hours, you'll see that system show up in this graph. And you can see down here at the bottom, I've got the two systems that I set up yesterday as test instances, and that's what's populating this particular graph. You can see I've got 34 hours of usage between two systems since yesterday when I set them up. In all, that's how to configure your ELS hourly metered subscription on your Amazon Web Services RHEL 7 instance. I hope you found this video informative, and I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out other content that we have on this channel. We do live streams. We do lots of other informational stuff like this, where I'm giving you how-tos about how to get things done. Lots of really useful RHEL content. So go check out the other things on the Red Hat Enterprise Linux YouTube channel. And until next time, thanks for watching.